Lies of P is a thrilling Souls-like that takes the story of Pinocchio and sets it against the darkly elegant backdrop of the Belle Epoque era of France. Set in the late 1800s, you take control of a puppet created by Geppetto, who is caught in a web of lies with unimaginable monsters and untrustworthy figures standing between you and the events that have befallen the world of the Lies of P. In this review, I'll take you through all the key aspects of the Lies of P and give you my honest thoughts and opinions after around 50 hours with the game. The story is told beautifully by a host of very likeable, albeit manipulative and deceiving characters. The story is also told through many more cutscenes than a traditional Souls-like, with a lot of dialogue and interaction with many different NPCs. And I personally think this is a great thing for this game because I adore the art style and the cast are amazing. Every time I saw a new NPC round the corner or encountered a new area, I couldn't wait for more of the story to unravel before me. And the world itself is rich with so many beautiful backdrops and haunting monstrosities, perfectly creating the horrifying yet elegant backdrop that the developers were clearly going for, and it works so well. I found myself wanting to read every note and exhaust the dialogue of every character because interacting with them all was always such a great experience. As for the performance and how this game runs, I've been playing it on PC and there has been absolutely no issues whatsoever. It runs beautifully. And this is on ultra graphics settings with a 1440p monitor at 144Hz. As you can see, these settings are plentiful. There is an endless amount of options to tweak and toggle to maximize your own personal gameplay experience. Particularly the audio, I think it is fantastic that there are 7 different sliders, so you can focus specifically on the sounds that you care the most about. And as you can see from the graphics and the detail settings, there are so many options that you can tweak to fit your own playstyle and your own rig. As you've already seen, the game is stunning and the cutscenes in particular are so beautifully rendered. And now as we talk about the actual gameplay itself, the combat initially, as with any good Souls-like, can feel a little bit daunting, but this stems from the amount of freedom and customization you are offered, which can be daunting and may artificially enhance the difficulty as you're getting used to the game, but when it all clicks, it feels so fluid. And I experienced absolutely no clunkiness with the combat. It feels really smooth and just as crisp and refined as you would hope it would. Lies of P is fantastic at luring you into a false sense of security, with groups of enemies that seem daunting at first, but you're able to take most of them down with almost no resistance whatsoever. However, this truly builds your confidence up, and then you turn the corner and encounter one of the game's many mini-bosses, and very quickly remember that you are playing an extremely challenging Souls-like, and your skills will be put to the test. Different resistances and statuses are very meaningful and are very key to overcoming certain encounters. With electricity, fire, acid, break, and distortion, just to name a few, you need to learn which of your enemies are strong and weak against these elements to ensure you're inflicting maximum damage and give yourself a fighting chance against some of the game's tougher encounters. There aren't really any puzzle or gimmick bosses that I've encountered, and to be honest, these are some of my favourites. So that was the only thing for me that felt lacking in the boss department. However, looking at these stunning cutscenes and the fights themselves, the bosses are so varied, so cinematic, and so awe-inspiring that you don't really mind that, because there is still such a huge variety in fights and playstyles needed to overcome these fights, that you are never left feeling wanting for another challenge around the corner. In fact, some of the boss fights are serious skill check moments, and you could well be bashing your head against a boss for a few hours or maybe even more And this just reinforces the fact that you really need to learn not only enemies' movesets, but also their weaknesses. It doesn't seem like you'll be able to wield just one particular OP build. You are going to need to tailor and customize your character depending on the situation at hand. And initially this prospect was very scary and a bit off-putting when I hit a brick wall and realized there was absolutely no way to respec my character, and I was locked into the choices that I made. However, fear not, for this statement is false. Later on in the game, you will unlock a way to reset not only your level, but the other aspects of your character as well, granting you a real sense of freedom, being able to reset and try again with a different approach and a different strategy. Even 20 hours into the game, you are still finding new mechanics to add to and enhance your playstyle. I won't go into the specifics because I don't want to spoil anything, but just know that if you start the game and feel like there isn't as much customization as you have been led to believe, don't worry, it is coming. There is just so much to the Lies of P that they like to feed you it in small bite-sized chunks to allow you to fully digest all of the options available to you. The change in difficulty levels at times did feel a bit jarring for me, going from an insanely easy area where I didn't even need to heal and I wiped the floor with everything, and then literally round the corner, still in the same area, not even moving on, just getting absolutely obliterated again and again and again by a boss, or sometimes even a mini-boss. The difficulty does seem to dip and spike at a moment's notice, and while some bosses are absolutely trivial, others are a real test of your mettle. That being said, due to the customization options for your arm, your weapons, your parts, your levels, your organs, there is always another strategy and always a way to overcome the seemingly impossible odds. And talking of the weapons, another amazing mechanic is that almost all weapons in the game have a separate blade and handle which can be disassembled and reassembled at will to create almost any weapon type you could possibly think of. The only problem with this system is that at a certain point in the game, you will unlock the ability to acquire special boss weapons. These weapons can't be disassembled, and because they are significantly more powerful than the weapons which can be disassembled, you can pretty much do away with this mechanic entirely and never need to visit it again. You can definitely tell that Lies of P takes a lot of inspiration from other Souls-likes, specifically the works of From Software, even more specifically Bloodborne. The setting, the lighting, the risk-reward combat system, even the grotesque bosses, everything screams the Bloodborne spiritual successor that we never got, whilst still, of course, retaining its own identity through the amazing storytelling and gripping game world. The soundtrack holds up just as well as the rest of the game, with some of my favourite music I have heard in recent Souls-likes. You can tell there is a real strong focus on the soundtrack, with well over a dozen records to be collected. And the fact that it's even relayed to you when you enter a boss fight, the name of the track currently playing. So if you really like a particular track, hopefully you can find the corresponding record and go back and listen to it in full at your leisure. I've already mentioned one criticism, the fact that the difficulty can change sporadically at a moment's notice. Also, sometimes fights can just feel downright unfair, with too many enemy attacks being allowed to stun lock you, and how easy it is for you to be backed into a corner with no physical way to escape. However, as that's been the only negative I've spoken about so far, I'm sure most people would just tell me to get good, which of course is part of it, but it does feel like a little bit of tweaking is needed on just a few of the enemies and bosses. My only other real criticism, apart from the occasional very minor bug here and there, was this one significant bug that I encountered around halfway through the game. I want to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, so I will keep this very brief. So the long and short of it is, when you do defeat a boss, you can choose out of 2 different rewards, and the second one is then seemingly lost to you until you do a whole new playthrough. As you can see here, the reward I selected was this amulet, which means all of my Legion Arms abilities gain 1 additional tier. So as you see with my currently equipped Legion Arm, that should increase my tier from 2 to 3, unlocking the overcharge ability. However, if you look at me using the arm side by side with and without the amulet, both of them reach the exact same level of charge. So to test this further, I hoped maybe I was reading it wrong. Therefore, I equipped a Legion Arm I only had at tier 0, meaning this time the amulet would increase that to tier 1. However, again, as you can see, the explosion range has not increased, so therefore this boss reward was completely wasted, and I have missed out on an insanely cool weapon that I could have chosen instead. And this bug led me to think how many other amulets or other pieces of gear could also not be working as intended. And this really did leave a sour taste, because this is effectively a lot of time lost. With the bugs and the difficulty scaling aside, I still truly believe that Lies of P is close to being the best Souls-like that's ever been released, and for any Souls fans, I truly recommend grabbing this game. However, if you are coming from just Elden Ring, be warned, it really is a challenge. Anyway, my friends, that wraps it up for my review of the Lies of P, and all that's left for me to say is, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.